Hey everybody, Yeti here, and welcome back to my PC gaming build. I'm doing the build for the 17th of May 2015. Well, it'll be the 18th when this goes up. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing a build which is going to be incredibly budget, like right at the bottom end. But it's going to be a build where I'm going to be saying this is going to be about the same price as a next-gen console, or at least in the UK. It's going to be about the same price as a PS4 and Xbox One. So I'm going to be showing you what kind of PC you can get for the same price as a console, and then I'm going to be kind of talking about, is it worth it to go for a PC over a console when you have that kind of money? Because a lot of people are saying that they'd rather stick to a console because they don't have the money for a good gaming PC. So I just want to kind of show you guys what you can get for that kind of money. So we're just going to hop right into this. So for the CPU, I've gone for the AMD FX 4300 3.8GHz quad-core processor. In my opinion, this is actually a really good processor for the price. It's quad-core and it's 3.8GHz, so it's just the kind of power you need in a computer. You'll be able to render things pretty fine. I think this is a good choice for the AMD, because if you're going to be going for an Intel processor, you're going to be going with a dual-core, so maybe a Pentium. And this is my personal preference, but I'd much prefer a quad-core AMD processor than a dual-core Intel processor. So this is going to be much better for if you're into video editing and rendering, maybe you do graphics work in Photoshop, something like that. It's going to be a great choice of a processor. It's also going to be good for gaming. We're not getting a lot of games coming out now that are optimized for more cores. The Witcher 3 that just came out is going to be optimized for up to 8 cores, but you're not going to need that. 4 cores will do you just fine, and with this power for this price, I think you'll be doing just fine. Also, the standard CPU core will cool it down perfectly well, assuming that you don't do any overclocking. But I think for this kind of price range, this kind of processor, you won't need to do any overclocking, and you'll be able to run things just fine. Okay, for the motherboard, I've gone for the Gigabyte GA78LMT USB 3. As you can probably tell by now, this is definitely my favourite motherboard. Pick this up from REAL FPS for just under 40 quid at the moment. This thing, I mean, for this kind of price range, you don't really have the kind of money to be picky with a motherboard. You're just going to want something that does the job, and this does it perfectly fine. It's got the right kind of socket, the AM3 Plus socket. This does support USB 3, however, the case I've chosen for this build doesn't have any front-facing USB 3 ports, so you're going to only be able to use a USB 3 built into the motherboard, so it will be around the back. But that's not really a big problem for this kind of price range. USB 2 should be doing the job perfectly well. This will support any sort of RAM you want to chuck at it, well, 1600 MHz of course, but you know, it just does the job. I don't see why you'd want to spend any more when you don't need to, so yeah. Okay, for the RAM, I've gone for the G.Skill Ripjaws X Series 8GB stick of RAM. This comes in two 4GB sticks, at 1600 MHz. This is brilliant for the price at the moment. RAM has been known to be particularly expensive in the past couple of years at least, getting to be about 60 quid for 8GB. Or at least with some good RAM. But this one's only 50 quid from REAL PC at the moment, and this will do you just fine. It's 8 gigs of RAM. A lot of people say that for really budget builds you're going to want to do 4 gigs just to save money, but I think for this kind of price, and especially when it fits in the range, then you will be able to do 8GB just fine. I think you shouldn't want to turn down 8 gigs. If you get 8 gigs, then definitely have 8 gigs. 8 gigs at the moment is the standard for any sort of gaming rig. A lot of people have 8 gigs. I have 8 gigs of RAM. This is going to do you just fine. There are games that are recommending that you have this much RAM, say for example The Witcher 3, Advanced Warfare, but nothing is particularly going to be using up all that RAM, so I think around 6 gig is going to do you just fine for a game. So to have that 2 extra gig, if you want to be listening to music or doing any sort of other thing in the background, 8 gigs is going to do you just fine. You're not going to be running out of memory. And the thing that's great about RAM is this motherboard has four RAM slots, so you can just easily upgrade that like in the future. That's probably one of the easiest things to upgrade. If you buy the PC now when you've got this money, maybe a few months down the line you'll have another 30 quid or so and you can buy another 4 gig of RAM, and then you've got 12 gigs. You just slot it in perfectly fine. So this RAM will definitely last you for the time being, and then even when you do need to upgrade it, that won't be too much of a problem. Okay, for the storage, we've gone for the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1TB 7200 RPM internal hard drive. There's not much to say about a hard drive. You're going to want a terabyte now. Some people will say go for 500 gig to save you some money, but at this price it's currently £42.47 on eBuyer. So for this price, you can't really complain. You're going to need a terabyte in my opinion. I don't think 500 gig will cut it, especially when games like The Witcher are coming out. Actually, The Witcher is kind of small, it's only 30 gig, but you got games like Advanced Warfare is 60 gig. Battlefield Hardline, Titanfall, they're both 60 gig. So a lot of games that are coming out nowadays are around the 50-60 range. so that's going to fill up really quick. Unless you're the kind of person that plays the game and then deletes it, you're going to run out of space incredibly quickly with only a 500 gig hard drive. This 1 terabyte gives you a bit of room to breathe, especially if you're making videos. You've got room to store your videos on there, so yeah, this will do the job perfectly well. Okay, for the video card was a bit of a problem because obviously there's not a lot of room in the budget for this, but you want to kind of try and get as much power as you can for as little price as you can. So I've gone for the XFX Radeon R7 250X 1GB video card. This is really low range. You'll get this for about just under 60 quid from Scan at the moment, scan.co.uk. Yeah, this is I think this is the best you can get for your money at the moment. It's a good price on Scan, and it'll give you good power. This is, in my opinion, this is equal, if not better, than the built-in graphics on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. This thing will happily run you the majority of games on medium settings. Maybe some games, if you want to play them in 1080p, then you will have to bump it down to low. But the majority of games, you will be able to run this on medium settings in 1080p. And maybe not necessarily 60 FPS. Like I said, if you do want to get 60 FPS in 1080p, you're probably going to have to play it on low for the majority of games. But for lightweight games, if you play things like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, games like that, which a lot of people are playing nowadays, Smite, Dota, this will do you just fine. Things like TF2 as well. You're going to be able to run those games perfectly well on high settings in 1080p. It's just if you're going to be playing AAA games, you might struggle, and in this aspect, maybe you prefer to play on a console. But bearing in mind that using Dying Light as an example, the lowest settings on PC for Dying Light were actually higher than than what it looked like on PlayStation 4. Like if you put the PlayStation 4 side to side with the PC's lowest settings, the lowest settings were significantly better. So if you're going to be thinking, oh, I want to be playing AAA games, or I don't like the idea of playing them on lowest settings. Bearing in mind the lowest settings on PC 9 times out of 10 is still better looking than on a console. So it's really up to you in that respect, but I think for this kind of price range, you can't really knock this at the moment. It's going to do great power, and I honestly think that this will support you just well enough for this kind of budget, as long as you're happy to bump down the settings a bit. Okay, for the case, I've gone for the Fractal Design Core 1000 Micro ATX Mini Tower case. This is incredibly cheap from Scan at the moment. This is just over 21 quid. This is going to do you perfectly well. There's nothing to really say about this. It's a pretty standard looking case, so if you want anything fancy, then probably not going to get it for this kind of range. But this looks good, even though it's pretty basic. It supports all the right kind of cooling. Everything will fit perfectly well into this case. No problems there. For the power supply, I've gone for the Corsair CX 500 watt 80 plus bronze certified semi-modular ATX power supply. This is essentially just the perfect power supply. There's not much to say about power supply. This budget is going to be using kind of the standard amount of power it'll be using, about 279 watts. If you're doing some kind of hardcore gaming, playing say The Witcher 3 or some sort of new title like that, I'll probably be hitting it around 340 watts. So this definitely would give you enough room to breathe. A lot of people will say you only need a 400 watt, but I think with this, if you're going to be getting a pretty low budget build at the moment, you may be wanting to upgrade in the future. Obviously there is upgrade ability with the motherboard I've chosen, so if you want to upgrade to a better graphics card in the future, say a 260X or an R7 270, something like that, then you're going to need a bit more power. So the 500 watt power supply, this will just give you some future proofing down the line. It means if you do want to go upgrade your graphics card, you won't need to be buying a new power supply as well. And it's Corsair, so it's not likely to break on you anytime soon. It is bronze certified, so there's nothing really to complain about, and it is pretty cheap at the moment on REAL PC, with it's just under £53. So if you buy all of these computers from the PC Part Picker link that are linked in the description, this will come to about £323. The cheapest I could find a PlayStation 4 was just under 300. So this is going to be about 20 quid more. In my personal opinion, I'd say definitely go with this. There's so much more than you can do with a computer. It's so much freer and easier to use. Obviously, you're going to have to sort out your own operating system for this, but you do most of the time anyway. I'd much recommend this over a console. Like I said before with the graphics card, a lot of games, even if you do have to run them on low, they'll still look nicer, if not equal to, games that you'll be playing on a PS4 or an Xbox One. So I don't think there's much to complain about here. You're going to be able to store them all fine. You're going to be able to multitask. I think the main thing with the computer is the fact that you can do significantly more with this than you can with the console. You can record stuff, videos, and you can live stream. You can edit stuff, you can use Photoshop and do graphics, you can do all sorts with this that you couldn't do on a console. So I think, in my opinion, I definitely recommend going with this. And the thing you gotta remember is how easy it is to actually upgrade. You just gotta look at a video on how to install a graphics card, and once you kind of see how it's done, you'll realise it's really not as difficult as you think. You can stick extra RAM in there. This motherboard, something I didn't mention before, this motherboard will support pretty much any graphics card you throw at it at the moment. So even if further down the line you want to buy a high-end graphics card, like an R9 290 or something for 250 quid, or a GTX 970, you will be able to do that perfectly fine just down the line. Same with the motherboard will support any AMD processor you throw at it, so you could upgrade to an 8320 or an 8350 down the line, or even something like a 6350. So I think that's the main thing you want to remember if you're buying this sort of build, is that you can upgrade down the future, and I think that's something that is definitely worth doing. Even if you're struggling with low settings now, later on down the line you'll be doing perfectly fine. So my name's Vinny. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like. It helps me out more than you can possibly imagine. I'm going to go. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, guys.